My friends, I'm afraid I've been thinking. A dangerous pastime, I know. Mostly I've been thinking about the ever-encroaching and increasing amount of cinematic universes, which all seem to be creatively and imaginatively stagnant. And I'm not talking about franchises where you follow the adventures of one character, say James Bond or the Mission Impossible franchises, but cinematic universes where the effects of one film or TV series can directly impact on the events of another. Because they really are everywhere and they really are multiplying at a rate of knots. Not only do you have the DCEU, but the Dark Universe. The Monsterverse, Star Wars, the Transformers franchise getting turned into a universe, and rumours of a Hasbro universe, sans Battleship, a Call of Duty shared universe, and even a Hanna-Barbera shared universe of all things. And I can see why. A shared universe allows for each film to act as a trailer for another, and you can put out similar products at a consistent rate with a rotating cast, ensuring hopefully neither audience nor actor fatigue, thus ensuring consistent profits. But here's the thing, pretty much every attempt to launch a commercial universe has resulted in a film that is either a critical and commercial flop, say King Arthur, Legend of the Board, a critical flop that just about makes its money back, say The Mummy, or films that divide the audience and critics pretty much straight down the middle, the DCEU bar Wonder Woman. But then you get to the one that started it all. The biggest, most popular and most stagnant of them all, the MCU. Well, the biggest in this era of cinema anyway. There was a Dark Universe back between the 20s and the 50s called either Universal Monsters or Universal Horror, and whilst it did produce some classic films, it inevitably descended into parodies and the law of diminished returns, but I'll get onto that another time. Because one evening last week I was channel hopping around and came across the last hour of Iron Man, which I think film historians of the future will probably regard as one of, if not the, most important film of the 2000s, if not of all time. After all, had Iron Man flopped, as it might well have done, there might be no MCU, no DCEU, no Dark Universe. Modern filmmaking would probably be an entirely different affair, and there was no reason why it shouldn't have flopped. This was a $140 million film from Marvel, the first film that they'd self-funded and whose previous films had ranged from terrible to unwatchable. It had no real star power behind it, and a director who was best known for Elf and Zathura: A Space Adventure. Get off IMDb, I know you don't know what that is. But watching it again, I was struck by how small it seemed. Where The Mummy and Man of Steel had their opening films deal with global destruction, Iron Man essentially has a squabble between two men over the best way to run a company. There aren't even really any hints towards the building of the MCU. If you left as soon as the credits started rolling, and there was no reason why you wouldn't have, because in 2008 end credit teasers and stings weren't really a thing, you could have believed it to be a standalone film, or the beginning of a new series of films, about only the Iron Man, Tony Stark character. And after rewatching it, I was struck by how well it stood the test of time. The film won the Oscar for Best Visual Effects, which somehow everyone seems to have forgotten about, and the CGI still looks good today. Legendary special effects guru Stan Winston, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, Aliens and Small Soldiers amongst others, arguably did some of his finest work in the creation of the Iron Man and Ironmonger armours. Although I do find it telling that the moment that most people remember from this film is not the big climactic battle that happens for no reason other than to have a big climactic battle, but the single moment in which Iron Man is shot out of the sky by a tank and then destroys the tank with a small missile. Depressingly, after all this time, I still regard it as one of, if not the greatest moment in the MCU. Now, one thing that Marvel has always gotten spot on is in its casting, and Iron Man is no exception. Robert Downey Jr. as the titular character must be one of the great castings in film history. The dude is amazing as Obadiah Stane, alternating between friendly character and calculating foe with practiced ease, unlike Gwyneth Paltrow, who took the role because it was shooting 15 minutes from her house and she could be with her children whilst filming. She was apparently uncomfortable with the amount of improvisation on set, unlike Downey and the dude, who both revelled in the opportunity to be part of a $140 million student film, and I feel this awkwardness does come across in the finished product. Now, Iron Man isn't perfect. The villain's not really threatening, the hero is an indestructible one-liner machine, and Downey and Paltrow have no chemistry together. Also, what few fight scenes there are lack intention, but they can be inventive, although the film does skate by on its charm and relatively quick runtime. Does Iron Man deserve 94% on Rotten Tomatoes? No, not really. Maybe a low to mid 80s, but that's quibbling over small details. Iron Man works because it's a small film that has a few barely noticeable hints about the world it's trying to build. It doesn't hit you over the head with characters that you're already supposed to know and understand. And that's something that was missing from the Dark Universe and the DCEU. A simple tale, well told, can lay the groundwork for some of the greatest accomplishments in cinematic history. And it helps if it's fun to watch as well. But what did you guys think? And what do you think that Iron Man did right, that The Mummy and Man of Steel and Legend of the Board, what do you think Iron Man got right that all the other universe openers got wrong? Comment below, let me know. I'm Daniel, this has been A Dunking. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe.